Hey guys, I'm going to be talking about a lesser known woman of the Bible. You might have never heard of her before. Her name is Abigail. In the Bible, it says that Abigail is beautiful and kind. She was a strong believer in God, and she always wanted to do the right thing. Unfortunately, she was married to a mean and angry and an unreasonable man named Nabal. When you translate Nabal into English, it means a fool. He did not follow God. He was known as an unbeliever and a follower of King Saul. Do you guys remember King Saul? He was the ruler of Israel before King David. Yes, that David that slayed Goliath. So Saul didn't really like David because of his growing popularity. He was worried that David was going to take over the throne. Anyway, so at this time, David had a following of about 600. And because of King Saul's hatred for David, they were outcasts and they lived among the hills. Well, David's army was hungry and they were short on food. So they thought, hey, we've helped Nabal in the past. Maybe he will help us and give us some supplies. So David sent a messenger to go see Nabal and ask him for some food for his army. Well, as we know, Nabal was not a nice man. And so he refused to give them anything at all. And when David heard the news, he was very upset. He was so upset that he had a plan to kill Nabal and anyone that associated with him. But when Abigail heard this, she jumped into action. She knew she wanted to do the right thing, and she knew that David was a follower of God. So Abigail went, unbeknownst to her husband, and collected enough food and wine for David's army. So she went behind her husband's back, and she went to go see David. When she saw David, she bowed before him and gave him the food and wine that they needed. When David saw her do this, he was so impressed, and he wasn't angry anymore. So because David wasn't angry anymore, he no longer wanted to kill Nabal and all that associated with him. So for Abigail, this was just another day. She was used to apologizing on her husband's behalf. She used her kindness and self-control to settle all sorts of disputes that Nabal had started with others. But I want you guys to understand that at this time, women were second to their husbands and were really only allowed to talk when asked for their opinion. So the thing that Abigail was doing took a lot of guts. After leaving David, Abigail returned home, even though she knew that her husband was going to be extremely angry. But this wasn't anything new for her. The whole time that they had been married, he had treated her and everyone around him extremely poorly. So the question is, why did Abigail stay with him if he treated her so bad? And it was because she vowed when they got married to be with him for better or for worse. And we know Abigail wants to do what's right by God. But something really interesting happened because Abigail followed what God wanted her to do. 10 days after she returned, her husband died. And she was free. She was done living in misery, and she didn't have to deal with this terrible life anymore. When David heard this news, he went to her because he was so impressed by her strength and bravery and love for God, and he asked her to be his wife. And you know what? She accepted. So our bottom line this week is you can show you care about others by being part of the solution. Thanks, guys. See you next time.